Okay, I was waiting for. Welcome to the Weekend Wrap, our new weekly show where we look at the Premier League action over the weekend with an Arsenal view, with our Arsenal hats on. So, Steph, you've joined me this week. 2 games into the new season. What's your kind of sense of how things have started for the big six? We call them the big six, but Newcastle will have to be included there, and we can debate at some point whether we include Manchester United in that conversation. But for now, let's include those clubs as well. How's your what's your sense of how things have started for the main clubs, our main rivals?
I think there is an awful lot of familiarity, and then there are a few subtle sort of differences as well. I think for Arsenal, it's kind of much of the same, although pleasingly we've seen one or two differences come through. Liverpool, it's all about their attack, and they've been a bit crazy, although very entertaining to watch. Spurs look annoyingly improved under Thomas Frank. I think he could be their best signing this summer. And Man City was quite pleasing to see them struggle a little bit, albeit against Spurs.
Well, looking at the table, I'm kind of amazed that after only 2 games, only 3 teams have got a maximum 6 points. I think that's really,
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to go back and check. But for only 3 teams to have won both opening games, I think is a bit unusual. Those 3 teams, obviously, Liverpool, very, very lucky. Spurs, I'm going to keep saying that. Spurs, yeah, decent start. And us, we're on +6 goal difference. Spurs on +5, Liverpool on +3, and that's the only thing that's separating us at the moment after only 2 games. So if we look at this weekend's actions, it started on Friday evening. West Ham 1, Chelsea 5. Did you see that game?
No, didn't watch it live, but I've since seen the highlights, and yeah, there was one highlight for West Ham, which was Paquetá's amazing goal.
6 minutes in or something, yeah.
Yeah, so that was good for them.
And it went rapidly downhill from that point onwards.
Incredibly, yeah.
West Ham started the season with a very anemic, was the word I heard used to describe it, performance up at Sunderland where they lost 3-0. That's a concern. Now, if they were waiting to get their home season off to a decent start, well, Chelsea saw to that. The odd thing about Chelsea is, could you let me test you? Could you name the Chelsea starting 11?
Nope. Nope. I mean, Robert Sanchez was in goal, I presume, because he's still there. And one or two of the players I could probably hazard a guess at, but not really.
It's mad, isn't it? I mean, they're the World Club Cup champions. They've got that lovely logo on their shirts for the season to illustrate that. But it's been 2 or 3 seasons since I've been able to actually name a Chelsea starting 11. They just seem to buy all of the players, and with a week to go in the transfer window, I would imagine that they will also be active still with Xavi Simons, and there's someone else they're after as well. I can't remember who that is. Yeah, Xavi Simons. Sorry, in the background, we're live, but there's a dog barking in the background. Do ignore that if you can. I'll try to as well. But look, West Ham 1, Chelsea 5. We're going to focus on Chelsea a little bit. Where do you see them? They drew their opening game at home to Crystal Palace, and then they won this game 5-1. Cole Palmer didn't play in this game. He picked up some kind of knock prior to kick-off. What do you think Chelsea can do this season based on what you've seen so far?
I think Chelsea can do well, but only in the sense that Maresca is starting to establish some idea of what he wants from the team, and they've got enough players to choose from in order to make something happen. I can see them, getting those Champions League spaces in the league, although it depends how they cope with themselves being in the Champions League, because last year in the conference. They could very much play a kind of shadow squad. They've still got a few question marks. Where's Cole Palmer's best position? Because he has to play. He's probably their standout player. But finding out how to get the best out of him and for him to get the best out of others in the team is a bit of a quandary. And I think losing the likes of Levi Colwill for basically the season will have an impact. They signed, is it Jarell Hato from
Ajax.
And that, with Colwell's injury, that puts pressure on him to hit the ground running. So
He's only 19.
He's only 19, and as this weekend proved, teenagers can do very well in the Premier League. But he'll have to, hit the ground running. So they could do well, but they're still a bit of an enigma.
Yeah, and we can't really judge them on how they've performed against West Ham. I think home to Crystal Palace is probably more of a barometer, really, that they're going to be faced with similar tactics as us insofar as low block teams coming to our ground and right, off you go, break us down, because we'll be delighted with the draw from this game. And in fact, Crystal Palace were unfortunate not to get the win. A certain Arsenal player's amazing free kick was ridiculously chalked off. Eze, welcome. Just focus on that. For me, I guess it's all about cohesion with Chelsea. Will they be able to keep everybody happy? What system will they play? And yeah, it's a big question mark. But they've got 4 points from their opening 2 games. I guess they're probably disappointed with that haul from the 2 games they've had, home to Palace and away to West Ham. They would surely have been looking for 6. If we move on to Saturday lunchtime kickoff, where we had one of the pre-season favourites, Manchester City, hosting Spurs. The other pre-season favourite, obviously, Liverpool and then Arsenal. So Manchester City. Now I looked at the team sheet, and before the game kicked off, and I thought that is and I'll get called up on this because I have done before. That was a bang average starting 11. Now players they had to come off the bench: Rodri, Doku, Foden, and Silva. I mean, that's a pretty impressive bench. It's a very strong bench, but their starting 11 for me just lacked stardust, lacked fear. Who's the opposition going to fear in that starting 11? Now, and granted, there's a couple of their new signings I don't know much enough about it, like Cherky and Reinders. I don't know enough about them. Reinders got an awful lot of plaudits from the Wolves game, but then against Spurs, he was a shadow. He was non-existent. Now, the Spurs team, I know you said that, Frank is probably their best signing, and I'd agree with that. Their midfield 3, and it was a comfortable 2-0 win, this was. I watched the game. It was, I'm hoping this Man City play against us in a few weeks' time. Spurs were dominant. It was a comfortable 2-0 win. I know Spurs have the sign over City for some reason, but their midfield 3 of Bentancur, Palhinha and Sarr, playing a little bit ahead of them, was really impressive and was just dominant, took total control of the game. And so it was a very worthy 2-0 victory. For me, Spurs, any team that starts with Richarlison as your main centre forward is not going to do as much as they think they might do in the league. But what was your sense of City and then Spurs and the game itself? And City are on 3 points and Spurs are on maximum points. They beat Burnley 2-0 at home in their 3-0 at home in their first game, and then this one. So what was your sense on that game, Saturday lunchtime?
Well, it's about, even only after 2 games, it's about drawing conclusions about the midfield. And you're absolutely right. City's midfield is a Rodri short of being a good midfield. Whereas Spurs, although they're doing that thing of trying to be greater than the sum of their parts. I heard a stat about, is it Papa Cisse? No, what's his name?
Sarr.
Papa Sarr in the midfield for Spurs comfortably ran the most of almost any midfielder across the weekend. And so they are going to try and make sure that hard work beats talent. And like you say, City, there is a little bit of fear that's perhaps gone. They didn't win the title last season. Haaland is a scary striker when he's being served, but is he being served well enough? De Bruyne's gone. So, yeah, it was... And also there's the thing, Spurs are sort of City's bogey side, which delightfully, and I heard this just this morning, Pep was asked about in a post-match press conference by a Scottish reporter, and something got lost in translation. Either Pep doesn't know the idiom for bogey side, or he just couldn't quite understand the Scottish reporter saying boogie side. And it created a hell of a lot of confusion, which was quite funny to see. But yeah, Spurs worked hard, got their reward, annoyingly.
What do you think's possible for them this season? Bearing in mind they've got a couple of big injuries already. They missed out on a couple of players, and they've got the Champions League to contend with.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're just going to be wanting. They're probably good enough with the organisation of Frank and the nous of Frank to come in and push for European places, which will delight them no end in terms of the league. And look, they'll try and have some fun in the Champions League as well. But it's whether they are comfortable with a more pragmatic approach, because they loved the fact Postecoglou, you kind of went for it to begin with, but that soon faded when they realised that they were going to lose 22 games in a season.
I do remember, didn't Postecoglou get like London Manager of the Year or something for his first
Well, he went unbeaten in
2 or 3
10,
months?
11 games.
Yeah.
And everyone thought, oh no, it's a new dawn, a new day. And yeah, it didn't go well.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get carried away by them winning their opening 2 games, and I'm glad they won their second game, if I'm honest.
Yeah, does us a favour, as
Yeah.
you know, in terms of those favourites for the Premier League.
In terms of City, when you were like, Haaland is a terrifying striker, but remember they had Sean Gota, and in years gone by, and the chant was "Feed the goat, feed the goat,"
And he will
and
score.
you can't. I don't know what Haaland is in terms of animalistic imagery. I don't know, but you've got to feed him, and they're not feeding him because he is not a link-up footballer. He's not a Pep footballer. It's funny, but they've gone to him. City still on for top 3 somewhere.
Yeah, they're going to be
Main
pushing,
threat.
because Pep will have to innovate and think about how to get the best out of the players that he's got, and arguably he's the best manager of a generation. So
Right. Let me ask you about that then.
Okay.
Guardiola is the most successful manager of all time, probably, and I need to tally it up, but he's been successful everywhere: Spain, Germany, England. Right? Has he ever built a team? And he's in a position. Has he ever, since last season? I mean, look what happened in they went on this run, and it just left other football fans quizzical and bewildered weekly. They've lost again. They've lost again, and they've had a big spend in January. They've spent a reasonable amount this summer, and I think they're probably not done yet. Rumours are today that they're going to get Donnarumma in as keeper, and after Trafford's performance against Spurs, I hope he's better with his feet than Trafford was. But anyway, but has Guardiola ever built a team?
Look, when he took over at Barcelona, it was all about the team that was built out of La Masia, their academy. Bayern are the biggest club in Germany and can use their financial might. He does buy the best players and then kind of makes them work. But I also don't think it's been made enough of about some of the players that haven't worked. Grealish courted some headlines this weekend. A couple of assists in Everton's first game at their new stadium, and he looked refreshed slightly. And what was it, 4 assists last season, or maybe even across last season and a bit more at City? They spent 100 million on him, and I think they bought him just because they could, rather than because they really needed him. And I'm not sure enough is made of that. I don't know.
Yeah, he's more of a maverick player rather than a system player, and
Yeah.
Guardiola's probably more about systems. Which someone asked me about Eze and Arsenal.
Yes.
Is Eze an Arteta player? But then Arteta talks openly about wanting to be more unpredictable. So I guess we'll find out in the
And
next.
you said to
weeks.
me recently as well that part of the reason Eze took a while to get noticed and established at certain clubs was because I think you said it was a QPR coach had to pull him aside and say, keep doing what you're doing, but there's got to be more for the team
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. Yeah.
It's blending his individual maverick skill with the team system, and obviously he can do that. He's played for England now, so and Arteta will be another step up in terms of what he's been used to, probably in terms of instruction and direction within a system as well. But hopefully he allows Eze to do what Eze does as well. Okay, City Spurs now. Evening kickoff, Fulham Man United. Well, there is a debate to be had about whether this weekend wrap is to do with.
That was on Sunday.
Oh, Sunday, sorry. Oh, yeah, into Sunday. Whether this weekend wrap focuses on teams that are a threat to Arsenal and so on, and Fulham and Man United might not be necessarily this season. But did you watch this game?
I watched most of it, later on, absolutely, and it was an interesting one.
Well, it started really positively for United, and in fairness, they could have been 2 or 3 goals to the good. And then you factor in Fernandes' penalty miss, which was hilarious. But after 30, 35 minutes, then similarly to our game with them, their threat tapered and Fulham grew into the game. And United scored a fortuitous goal and it went down as an own goal in the end. And Fulham equalised with Emil. No, so nice to see the kid smiling again. Lovely. And what a great way to start his season. Off the bench, get an equaliser, take 2 points off United. I'm here for that. Cunha missed a couple of chances. One very, very good save from Leno in particular. And then the Fernandes, the Bruno penalty. I mean, if that player couldn't endear himself more to the Arsenal fan base. But did you see the excuse offered up
about the referee
when and it was an accidental coming together, and then how dare the referee not apologise? The only thing missing would be Bruno saying, "Do you know who I am?" And then the penalty was a thing of beauty.
And that for me is why I only can appreciate Bruno's contributions so far. There is something in his temperament that allows outside forces to affect him. And the best players just can bat that off, no problem. They talk about it, especially with penalty situations where you do have a little bit more control. I know Harry Kane used to go through a kind of centering routine. He would shift the ball a little bit. He would pull his socks up and just readjust those. Always, and then control his breathing and all those sorts of things as well. It's all about centering yourself, getting rid of the outside noise. Well, Fernandes didn't do that. The ref bumped him and he's like, and then he's put off. And he missed it. And I'm sorry, if you're an elite footballer and that puts you off, you might not be an elite footballer. So I just thought it was just typical of the problems that are kind of facing United.
You had a nice stat about United having lost more Premier League games under Amorim than points they've got, or something like that.
No, he's now managed more Premier League games than he's earned points. So he's managed 29 Premier League games and United have accrued 28 points.
And my one back at you was about Lenny Yoro. He's been at the club 13 months, 14 months, and he's yet to be on the winning side against the current Premier League team.
Yeah, and he looks like one of the slightly better players.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he looked good. He made a fantastic last-ditch tackle on Josh King, who was clean through on goal. It was brilliant. It was a great recovery pace, perfectly timed. And is he 18, 19? He might be 19 now. I don't know, but he's very young. So that's really good. United this season, they've not got Europe. Where do you see them based on how they start? They obviously they've got 1 point from their opening 2 games. The fan base is not happy because there's a lot of familiar feelings now. They're at home to Burnley next weekend, and you've got to think that has to be the game where Sesko starts, where Cunha actually scores one of his many chances, and Burmo maybe gets one. They have to come together. A lot of fans are on Amorim's back already. As well as Mount played against us, he's keeping Sesko out of the starting 11 at the moment.
And I don't see how they don't see that. Again, it comes back to midfield. Amorim is so wedded to this 3-4-3 system that it puts so much pressure on the midfield too, one of whom is Bruno Fernandes, who can't track players, isn't really interested in stopping attacks, just wants to get forward. So then you're putting more pressure on Casemiro, who we all know is kind of done, really. He's past it. So they haven't invested where they needed it. A 3-4-3 system needs some big players in the middle of the game to wrestle any kind of control. Because essentially what you're saying is we're going to filter everything wide through wing backs and attackers there and have a high press from the front three. For me, I don't know, Fernandes comes out, Mount moves back, Sesko comes into the middle, and then you just have to maybe go out and buy a proper defensive midfielder.
Who was United's best player last season? Like in attacking sense, effective.
I mean, it probably was Fernandes.
Yeah, and he's a number 10.
In an attacking sense, he's a number 10.
Right, and so they've gone and bought 2 number 10s, Cunha and Mbeumo. So they've moved Fernandes back. He's not a number 8. Clearly, he's not a number 8. He didn't track Emile Smith-Rowe's run as well, they were complaining about. Yeah. I'm reading this morning that Kobbie Mainoo is still likely to be sold this summer because he's been overlooked completely in midfield.
And he's a good player.
Yeah. No, I mean, he might not be the number 6 that they need, the believer that they went for necessarily. But yeah, I mean, he'd be good for their PSR as well, homegrown as such. But it's not happy there. Their performance against us was good. I loved Amorim's quotes after the game, like, we've just proven we can beat anybody. You lost.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
So you've got that. United, it's difficult. I suspect they'll finish higher than the 15th they finished in last season. However, will they get into the top 8?
Yeah, it's hard. When you look at the teams that are going to be vying for that top 8, it does look tricky. Because Villa are a more established team. I know they had a disappointing result at the weekend. And Newcastle still look very good to a point.
Brighton battered Everton, by the way. I watched parts of that game. How they didn't score in that game, I just don't know. So Brighton will be there or thereabouts. So, because I think 8th would be success for United this season because it's definitely a big improvement. And then from the 8th, where we were, 8th, then you're looking to kick on to get that 5th spot if it's still a Champions League spot. But interesting. Okay.
Sure.
The final game last night.
Wow.
Newcastle, Liverpool. Can I just tell you that at the moment that Liverpool have won their first 2 games, as we have, but they've got their winners in the 88th and 110th minutes. I mean, last night, how they got a win out of that game, I don't know. Fair play, luck.
No, bloody Newcastle. You said it in our WhatsApp
I did,
group.
yeah.
They got their equaliser and then they got greedy with 10 men. And it was just, I felt like it was so obvious watching it that it was inevitably going to happen, that they got carried away, as Newcastle did the whole blooming game because they'd had too many sherbet dips before the game or whatever and were high on sugar. And they just needed to hold what they had. Oh.
Yeah, as soon as the equaliser went in, I jumped up and I was clapping in the room. I was like, brilliant, this is great. And my instant response, right, now don't go for the win. Even before they'd kicked off, don't go for the win. You've got the draw now. That's a win in every sense other than the actual 3 points. Yeah. Because Liverpool have the attackers to pick you off. They've got the nous and the know-how to pick you off. How on earth that 16-year-old, he's 17 in 2 days, had all that space, and it was a lovely finish. And listen, the way the ball kind of spun and nestled in the side netting and didn't drop to the floor straight away, I'm like, it's just beautiful. It was a piece of art, his finish, and good luck to him. I mean, they nicked him off Chelsea, so another Chelsea player lost, youth team player lost. But anyway. So defensively, though, for Liverpool, that's 4 goals conceded in 2 games. They looked really suspect at the back and from corners. And Alisson was flapping at corners. And any kind of physical presence around him and the defence, it was frantic defending. And we are very good at set pieces. I don't know if anyone's realised that. Obvious threat is their attack. Mo Salah has had a very quiet 2 games, but you cannot assume that will be the case on Sunday.
Hmm.
What are you thinking, or where are your thoughts about Liverpool in particular then, and how they've started? Bearing in mind we've got a week left, and Gay from Crystal Palace as a central defender could still come in. What are your thoughts?
I think Liverpool are like a bodybuilder who's jacked up on steroids and they keep skipping leg day. So basically, I've got this image in my head of someone whose head is all muscular
Yeah,
and their neck is out here and their arms are absolutely massive. And then they've got spindly little legs. Because for all the attacking talent they've bought, and boy, have they bought well, that Ekatike looks incredible. I'm actually slightly jealous of him because he's a player I didn't know much about beforehand, but he looks
Three
really
goals in
exciting.
3 games.
3 goals in 3 games. And without Gravenbach in the team against Bournemouth, they look really suspect. They looked a little bit better to start with yesterday, but Gravenbach quickly got a yellow card, which inhibited him. And also Newcastle were playing with all the aggression of a, I don't know,
Thugs.
of a yeah, well, of a prison riot essentially, and so they did get overwhelmed, and at the back again looked slightly suspect. Kirkes kept getting caught out. Van Dijk, 1 or 2 good moments, 1 or 2 not so good moments, and
Canate looked all at sea, and
bit, yeah,
apparently
exactly.
he did against Bournemouth as well. I didn't see that game.
So essentially, we're looking at Liverpool being like Keegan's entertainers from the 90s. They're going to score a lot of goals, but they're probably going to concede a lot of goals. They've conceded 2 goals in each of their 2 games. So for champions and for all the control Slot came in with last year, it feels like a total abandoning of that.
And against 10 men for, actually, what turned out to be. So my issue with the Liverpool game, 2 things. One, that was absolutely a red card. Anthony Gordon, what on earth was he thinking? I said it straight away when I saw the first replay of it, before they'd even gone to VAR or they'd gone to the screen. I said, that's a red. Like he's come raked his studs down his calf.
He took down Van Dijk's sock with his studs.
Yeah. But my issue was in the second half. It was still 2-0. It had gone 2-0 rather. I can't remember who was through on goal. Harvey Barnes. Right. He got a 2-handed push in the back from Canate, last man. Referee didn't give anything. Referee, for me, bottled it. It was a free kick. And because of the positioning, it was at least a second yellow card because of the nature of the position. And that was his second yellow card. And that would have brought it back to 10v10. So I was a bit irritated by that, far more irritated by Newcastle.
Well, another significant familiarity to the start of the season is again some decisions. I think there have been 1 or 2 good refereeing performances. Yeah. I thought was it Jared Gillett for us versus Leeds? That was all fairly standard. The fact that you didn't notice him, that's always a good sign. Whereas there have been 1 or 2 games where you're like, The thing yesterday linked back to the United and Fulham game. So obviously United got their penalty for holding in the box. Fine, okay, if that's the rule, fine. There was a situation yesterday, Liverpool and Newcastle holding in the box, not a penalty given. So actually we're seeing in one game it is a penalty, one game it isn't. That's why we get frustrated.
And that was always going to happen. And it will continue to happen. Sure. Like, it just will. That's... okay, we're coming to an end. In terms of Liverpool then, we'll do a proper Liverpool preview later in the week. If they don't sign anybody else, how are you feeling about Arsenal's chances?
Well, our chances have now been affected by the fact that we've probably lost Saka for a month. Odegaard yet to be assessed, but looks like he might be okay. But we said in our Leeds review pod that we've bought well enough to have some deputies come in that will still provide a good standard. So that's Madueke, that's Waneri as well. So yeah, but it's Liverpool, it's Anfield. It's a place where we still struggle to get the most positive results. Although we've drawn the last 2, maybe 3, I can't remember. I don't know. Their attack is devastating, but they can be got at. But
in terms of the league title, the broader picture, still the team to beat.
But I think Liverpool are still a team to evolve. Slot will look to try and make them more solid while still getting the best out of their attack. We've still got some things to iron out with our new players coming into the team. You know, we noticed a difference in approach second half against Leeds, where we were playing first-time balls to Gyökeres. So I feel like no one looks 100%, front runners at the moment. But Liverpool, if they keep winning in that fashion, that's going to annoy everyone.
Well, that's unsustainable, isn't it?
Well, one hopes it's unsustainable.
They didn't have McAllister in midfield either. So McAllister and Gravenberch together against us will make a difference. Will make them a little bit more solid, I assume.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. 2 last bits of news then. It looks like Kivior is on his way to Porto, and we're going to sign Piero Hincapié. Anyway, right. Catch us later. Bye.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app, and find us on your socials at North Bank Pod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by the Podcast Company.